citizens Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Just moments ago, the president saying he's naming Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin to become the next Secretary of Homeland Security. Let's get straight to our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. Mary, what do we know?
Well, Kira, the president just announcing this in a social media post that Markwayne Mullin is going to become the new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security as of the end of this month. And the president, who, as you note, we know had grown increasingly frustrated with Secretary Noem this following several days of her testimony up on the Hill, the president posting the current secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. It also comes, of course, as you note, that she received a lot of backlash after her response to the killings of two American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, in Minneapolis. She, of course, was very quick to come out and label them domestic terrorists. She falsely said that Preddy was brandishing a gun. It created quite controversy for the administration. Then, of course, the president moved in Tom Homan, his border czar, to take over the situation in Minneapolis. But Kira, the big picture here, it is important to remember that this is now the first major firing that we have seen in the president's second term. To fire Kristi Noem, move her away from being the DHS secretary to this new post at the end of this month. Unlike in his first term, where there was quite a bit of turnover in the cabinet, she is now the first cabinet secretary to be let go by President Trump.
Let's bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. Pierre, as we get this news now, let's just talk about how DHS changed under Kristi Noem's leadership. And it didn't take long for her to receive a lot of heat from critics once she did take that position.
Indeed, Kira. And there was a key moment this week at that Senate hearing. This over $200 million ad campaign came up, and Senator Kennedy, a Republican, was pressing her on why was the funding as high as it was. He expressed deep concern that it was too much money, and he asked the secretary about it, and she claimed that the president was engaged in this. Now, we just saw from our own reporting from Rachel Scott and others that the president is now claiming that that is not true. And again, this ad campaign stars Kristi Noem, and basically the message is to undocumented people leave now or be deported. And again, $200 million, and you could see these ads during football games, during the NFL, college football playoffs, the NBA, all types of major ad buys for this particular campaign, and that appears to have played a key role. To your first question, the bottom line is under Kristi Noem, there were some positives for the administration in terms of the border being shut down, but the way that the internal campaign to remove people from this country was executed is apparently played a big role in this as well. As Mary said, Tom Homan taking over after the situation in Minneapolis spiraled out of control.
And let's take it straight now to senior political correspondent Rachel Scott. I know you're en route to the Hill. You've been talking to your sources, Rachel. What's the word from lawmakers after Pierre just mentioned, of course, the testimony where apparently the president was not happy with how the now former secretary performed during testimony?
Yeah, well, Kira, I'm told by multiple sources that President Trump was on the phone calling Republicans, calling allies, asking whether or not he should fire Secretary Kristi Noem. He was pointing out that he was clearly unhappy with that answer that she gave Senator Kennedy during these heated briefings and hearings on Capitol Hill just yesterday. I'm also told that there has been a lot of frustration with how Noem has handled several instances, not just this particular one on the Hill testifying before Congress, but also just a few days ago, it was her decision, along with one of her top advisors, Corey Lewandowski, to ultimately pause and put a hold on TSA PreCheck due to the government shutdown. I'm told by multiple sources that then White House officials had to intervene then to correct that. So this is coming after a lot of frustration, not only from President Trump, but also top members of his administration expressing concern about some of her actions, and ultimately the president making this decision today to now get Kristi Noem out and completely replace her, Kira.
And Rachel, let's talk more about the senator from Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, who now will replace former Secretary Kristi Noem there overseeing DHS. What more do we know about him, and your thoughts on why you think the president made this choice?
In these final hours leading up to this decision, Kira, I'm told that I was told that President Trump was working the phone, speaking to Republicans on Capitol Hill, and this is something that the president does, right? He likes to get on the phone with Republicans and allies, and he asks them questions. So one of the things he was asking them is who exactly do they think should serve in this role? Clearly, the president is concerned about one thing, a confirmation battle ahead. Senator Markwayne Mullin is respected up on Capitol Hill by Republican allies. He's someone that many Republicans, including top administration officials, believe could ultimately get through a Senate confirmation battle. Obviously, Republicans do have majority in the Senate right now. On top of that, Senator Mullin is also a firebrand. He is known for having some of these explosive exchanges, even on hearings on Capitol Hill. He is a fierce defender of the president as well. And top administration officials do believe he's someone that will be able to work more closely with the administration and more in line with the administration as compared to some of these recent incidents with Secretary Noem.
Rachel, thank you. I want to bring in our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky now. Aaron, you've been covering the Department of Homeland Security, the fight for funding, the outcry that it wasn't getting enough resources to do the missions that Secretary Kristi Noem wanted to execute. Your thoughts?
Kristi Noem's stewardship of the Department of Homeland Security, particularly the handling of the immigration uproar in Minneapolis, cost the Department of Homeland Security its funding, Kira. There have also been complaints by lawmakers in certain states over the way FEMA has operated and questions about readiness for natural disasters. Remember, the Department of Homeland Security has grown into this behemoth agency, but at its core is its title. It is meant to protect the American homeland. It was born after the September 11th attacks, and it appeared many critics of Kristi Noem had felt that she had become a distraction in that mission, Kira.
A distraction, and she was really, crucified by lawmakers when she made comments about domestic terrorists during that whole incident in Minneapolis when the immigration agents moved in and the death of those two advocates in Minneapolis. Just remind our viewers, Aaron, about that and how the talk really didn't stop once she made that comment, and she was questioned on it from the moment she made it all the way to testimony there on the Hill this week.
And lawmakers grilled her over her immediate characterization of the two, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, who were shot as domestic terrorists, and there was no real investigation that has ever been made public anyway about how these shootings occurred, so much so that lawmakers pulled funding for the Department of Homeland Security until ICE can reshape its mission. The department is effectively shut down, and it comes at a time when the nation is at war in Iran, and there are real concerns about the threats that brings to the homeland, and whether Kristi Noem, as the secretary, was up to the job, even though it seemed it's this $220 million ad campaign that really drew the president's ire and became the final straw, Kira.
You know, that's a good point. Let's bring in Pierre Thomas on that as well. Pierre, is there concern now, or is there a sigh of relief that a change is being made when we start talking about the threat environment and this ongoing war with Iran, and how there has been concern about issues here at home since those strikes started? And is, Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin up for the task?
Look here, one source I was speaking to earlier this week said that the funding shutdown for DHS came at the absolute worst time. You have an ongoing conflict with Iran, elevated threat environment that already was challenging. And now this whole notion that because of the immigration challenges created in part by Noem and the leadership at DHS, that the funding would be blocked because of it. It could not come at a worse time. One source also talked about the fact that some of the people protecting former presidents are now working without pay.
Mary Bruce, when we think about this firing and the level and the position that Kristi Noem had, we could look back at Mike Waltz, who went from National Security Advisor to ambassador to the UN, and the questions that was being asked, will Kristi Noem somehow remain within the administration? What do you make about the fact that the president has put her into a different position, and what do you think of that position?
Yeah, well, the president isn't getting rid of her entirely, but I think it is important to remember just how critical the issue of the border and immigration is to this president politically. It is one of the key issues that propelled him back to the White House and into this second term. He knows this is a priority for voters and his supporters, and it's part of the reason I think the president stood by Kristi Noem for so long. He was very proud of the work that she had done on the border, and in fact, he noted that in his post today. But it is clear that he grew increasingly frustrated just in the last few weeks. He had still been defending her publicly just a month ago, but something changed in the midst of this testimony. All of the controversy surrounding her comments over Minneapolis and Minnesota, and the president now moving her to this other position. Kira.
Team, thank you. And our coverage will continue on ABC News Live now and abcnews.com. David Muir will be here with the entire team for World News Tonight. I'm Kira Phillips here in Washington. I'll see you back over on ABC News Live.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Managed blood sugar response, uniquely designed with Carb Steady, Glucerna,